Hello dear students, this is Mohammad Shahnawaz, assistant teacher, Jalalabat BL High School, Dokhin Churma, Silet. Today I have appeared before you with an important topic for the students of class 8, but it's also important for the students of class 9 and 10. Before entering into the deep of the topic, I want to show you a sentence. Look at the sentence. I eat rice. My question is to you, how else this sentence can be expressed? Please think for some moments. Yes, you may say that this sentence can be expressed: rice is eaten by me. If I say I eat rice, if you say rice is eaten by me, the meaning of the sentence will remain same. But you are saying from an aspect and I am saying from another aspect, and this is called voice. So today's our topic is voice. Today we will learn how to change the voice. We know very well voices are of two kinds. One is active voice and the other is passive voice. Today we will learn how to change the active voice into passive. Please stay with me. Dear students, to change the active voice into passive, what should we know? We should know these 6 fundamental rules to change the active voice into passive. What are they? Please read out with me. Object will be changed into subject. You must find out 3 things at the very beginning to change the active voice into passive. What are the 3 things? S, V, O. Please repeat with me. S, V, O. S for subject, V for verb, and O for object. You have to find out 3 things from the active voice and you have to follow the serial of these 6 fundamental rules. First of all, you need to change the object into subject. Then you have to write the auxiliary verb or verbs. Now it's a question, when which auxiliary verb will be used? See the list. We will show you another list where we will show when which auxiliary verb will be used. In the third position, you have to write V3 of the main verb. One thing you have to remember, that you must write the past participle form of the principal verb in passive voice. So you have to write V3, that means past participle form of the principal verb. Then the extension. What's extension? You may ask me, what's the extension? Extension is except SVO. If there is any word or words in active voice, is called extension. And this extension will be used in the 4th position. But one thing you have to remember, that may be used in any suitable position. It's not mandatory that you have to write the extension in the 4th position. You may use the extension in any other position. It will depend on the meaning of the sentence. Then in the 5th position, you have to write by or to. By or to. But I have written in bracket that to for no verb. Only for the no verb you have to use to, and almost for the rest of the verb you have to use by. And last of all, you have to write the subject changing into object. Subject will be changed into object. That means you have to write the subject changing into object. These 6 fundamental rules is mandatory to change the active voice into passive if the sentence of the active voice is assertive. Dear students, I told you earlier that you have to follow 6 fundamental rules to change the active voice into passive. Another thing, can you remember that you have to write the auxiliary verb in the 2nd position. You may not identify the tense from the active voice. It's not mandatory, it's not necessary to identify the tense of the active voice. If you know the auxiliary verb, which auxiliary verb will be used in passive voice. If you know this use of auxiliary verb, then if you can't identify the tense of the active voice, you will face no problem. I have said you have to write the auxiliary verb in the second position. Now, which auxiliary verb will be used? When which auxiliary verb will be used? If there is no auxiliary verb in the active voice, you have to write am, is, are, or, was, were. That means if there is no auxiliary verb in the active voice, you will have two options. Whether you have to write am, is, are, or you have to write was or were. Now you may ask me a question, when will you use am, is, are? That means present form of the be verb. And when will we use was or were? That means past form of the be verb. Yes, it will depend on the form of the principal verb. If the form of the principal verb is present, you have to write the present form of the be verb. And if the form of the principal verb is past, you have to write was or were as the auxiliary verb of the passive voice. If there is be verb in the active voice, be verb means am, is, are, was, were, be, been. If there is be verb in the active voice, what should be used in the passive voice? Of course, been. Be verb plus been. If there is be verb in the active voice, you have to write be verb plus been in the passive voice. If there is have verb means have, has, had. If there is have verb in the active voice, you have to write have verb plus been in the passive voice. If there is modals, then that means can, could, may, might, should, would, have to, has to, used to, going to, etc. In the active voice, you have to write modal plus be. That means you have to know which be verb will be used in the passive voice. It's very important. Again, I would like to remind you that if you want to change the active voice into passive, you have to know two things. The first one is 6 fundamental rules that should be written serially, and the second one is the list of the auxiliary verbs. That means when which auxiliary verb will be used. Now we will learn to change the active voice into passive, writing an example. Dear students, look at the example. I know her. This sentence is active voice. Now we have to change the active voice into passive. I told you earlier that before changing the active voice into passive, you have to find out 3 things first. What are they? S, V, or, and, O. That means subject, verb, and object. Let's try to find out subject, verb, and object from this sentence. What is the subject? Yes, I is the subject in this sentence. No is the verb, and her is the object. That means we have found 3 things, 3 very important things from the active voice. They are subject, verb, and object. Then we have to understand, or we have to remind 6 fundamental rules. We have to remember 6 fundamental rules. What are they? First of all, we have to change the object into subject. What is the object here? Yes, her is the object. Her is the object. Now we have to change her into subject. If we change her into subject, will you write her here? No. We have to write the subjunctive form of the object, and the subjunctive form of her is she. Then we have to write the auxiliary verb. One thing you have to remember, that using auxiliary verb in the passive voice is a must. In active voice, you may not have any auxiliary verb, but using the passive voice, using auxiliary verb in the passive voice is a must. We have to find out whether there is any auxiliary verb or not. Is there any auxiliary verb? No. As there is a single verb, no, there is no auxiliary verb. Then what should we do? From the list, we learned that if there is no auxiliary verb in the active voice, we will have two options. One is present form of the be verb and the other is past form of the be verb. It will depend on the form of the principal verb. You can see principal verb is available here. It is no, and no is the present form. That's why we can use am or is or are. It will depend on the subject verb agreement. According to the subject verb agreement, we have to write is after she. Then in the third position, what should be written? Try to recall the 6 fundamental rules. In the third position, we have to write V3 of the principal verb. V3, that means past participle form of the principal verb. The principal verb is no, but we have to write the past participle form. And what is the past participle form of no? No, knew, known. According to the conjugation of verbs, known is the past participle form of no. That's why we will write known. Then the extension. And what do you know about extension? I have told you earlier that except S, V, O, if there is any other word or words in the active voice, they are called extension. And you can see except subject, verb, object, there is no auxiliary verb. There is no extension, there is no any other word. That's why this sentence has no extension. So we have to skip the fourth position. We have to go to the fifth position. In fifth position, what should be written? By or to. Here we will write to. Because in the 6 fundamental rules we mentioned that for no verb you have to write to, and for other cases you have to write by. For no verb I have used to, and last of all we have to write what? We have to write the subject of the active voice into the object of the passive voice. The subject is I, it will be changed into object. So we have to write here me, because me is the objective form of subject I. So if you are told to change the active voice into passive, and if the sentence is I know her, how can we change into passive? You can write she is known to me. I know her, she is known to me. Thus, we can change the active voice into passive. Dear students, look at another example. I am eating rice. I have said to change the active voice into passive, you have to find out 3 things: subject, verb and object from the active voice. What is the subject in this sentence? I is the subject. What's the verb? There are 2 verbs. And what's the object? Rice is the object. That means we have found out 3 things: subject, verb and object. Now we will change the active voice into passive. How? We have to recall 6 fundamental rules. First of all, you have to change the object into subject. The object is rice and the subject will be rice also, because the subjective form of rice is rice also. The subjective form of the object rice is rice also. So I have written rice here. Then we have to write the auxiliary verb. But before writing the auxiliary verb, you have to see which auxiliary verb available in the active voice. You can see am is the auxiliary verb in active voice, eating is the main verb. So am is the active voice, am is the auxiliary verb in the active voice. So am is be verb. We know am is be verb, and we know if there is be verb in the active voice, you have to write be verb plus being. So we will write be verb after rice. Am. Will you write am here? No. According to the subject verb agreement, you have to write rice. You have to write is after rice. Then you have to write been. As there is be verb in the active voice, you have to write be verb plus been in the passive voice. Then you have to write the past participle form of the principal verb. What is the past participle form? What is the main verb? Eating is the main verb, but you have to write the past participle form, because using past participle form in the passive voice is a must. So you have to write the past participle form of eating. It will be eaten. Then you have to write the extension. Again, try to recall what is the extension. If there is any word or words other than subject, verb, object in the active voice, it is extension. So in this sentence you can see there is no extension. That's why we will skip this position. We will go to the next one. The next one you have to write by or to, and for each verb you have to write by, and last of all you have to change the subject into object. The subject is I. If we change the subject into object, it will be me. So if you are told to change this active voice into passive, that means I am eating rice. If you are told to change the active voice into passive, it will be rice is being eaten by me. Dear students, I tried to show you how to change the active voice into passive if the sentence of the active voice is assertive. In my next video, I will show you how to change the passive voice into active. I think you will stay with me. And again, thank you very much for staying with me. Thank you very much.